Recording in progress.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We are back to the Broken Brain for this week's installment of health, goodness, swellness, and just awesomeness. I have to say awesomeness because who we got? And I got the parent teen coach himself on here today, Sean Donohue.
What's up, Dwight? How's it going, man?
Jazzed about having you, mainly. That's my main thing today. But no, it's going well. It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just happy to be here, talk about life and family life and parenting with you. And we'll chat about your kids, my kids, everyone's kids. Let's do it, man.
We got them all on the line here. No, that'd be cool, though, huh? Talk about the prep that would require. We've got some older ones, you and I, some teens, right? So they're all.
Yep. Yeah. My oldest is 18. Then I've got 14 and age 7.
Yeah.
And so, I've been helping parents with their kids for 24 years. And so happy to be here, man, on the Broken Brain. I like that name. How'd you come up with that name? Like, what does that mean?
You know, it's funny. Half the reason was it was an alliteration. It just kind of popped in my head when I was making the podcast. But I've talked about it a few times on here, but not that often. So it was something I actually wrestled with a little because the dual nature of that message is I feared that it would sound shaming, right, of any neurodiversity or anything. But yet at the same time, it sounded cool. That was the big factor for it.
It does sound cool.
I tell you, I arrived at my justification, and as everybody knows, you can justify anything if you just talk about it long enough. But
that's so true.
I thought a couple of reasons that I went with it is I feel like, and as a neurospicier person myself with bipolar and ADHD and some of those things, I felt okay using the term as a reclamation kind of thing of like, that's how we feel a lot of times is we can feel broken. And the other was, it was kind of a play off of like a deeper version of blowing your mind, right? So break your brain around something.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Something interesting, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Blow your mind. That's like a good expression we all use. And so that's cool. I like that.
And you're, of course, in the podcast sphere yourself with the Sean Donohue Show, which from an SEO standpoint is probably a better name than mine.
I punched a bunch of names around and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call it, so let me just play it safe. So I'm happy to share the Sean Donohue Show is listed right now on all the charts as number 3 parenting podcast in the world. And we've been normally around that, number 10 to 15 ranks, but it's a real honor. I've just been doing podcasting for about 4 months now. Wow. And it's just been a really wonderful experience. Learned a lot, and it's just such a vulnerable medium to share. And so much more, I think for me, real and vulnerable than the Instagrams videos or the TikToks or the reels that I make, the videos. And so I just love it, man. I'm really into it.
Yeah, you can do more.
Really into it.
Yeah. Plus, when you're doing something that's, 30, 45, 60 minutes or even more, that stuff going to come out and you don't remember what all of it was sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Here's an story. I've never told this story before, ever. I just want to share it right now for some reason. So I have a membership. So I would go and I teach a group of parents on group Zoom calls, right? This is what a lot of coaches do. And so on every one of these calls, Dwight, I would start off with an opening teaching or an opening an opening word. It's like a monologue. And some of them are 15 minutes and some of them are 30 minutes. And I was always recording these so that the members could go back and watch them. But I never, ever intended for these to ever go public, ever. It was always for a small group of parents who were my paying members. And when I launched the podcast, I was talking to my podcast team, and they're talking about more and more content. People want more content. And so, the podcast out there now has been recorded 2-3 years ago, and it was never intended to be public. So I said, I don't know if I am comfortable with this. What if I say something, or I don't know if I want the world hearing some of these stories that I tell about me. And so, man, that's part of my podcast is that. And then other episodes are the, weekly episodes that I film.
It's one of the things I love about listening to podcasts, but as I've been into this for a while, I was trying to age it. It's at least 8 years or so that I've been some off and on. I had a little break in the middle, but as I've been doing it, one of the things I enjoy about being the podcast host is meeting people, getting to have like these connections with people, and many people sort of cycle back through and you connect with podcasters, and it's really just cool bunch of people. Plus it does make me always feel like if there's someone I want to get to know who's doing cool work, you sound a little the professional way to say it is more credible. The way I think of it is you don't sound nutsy by calling up and saying, "Hey, can I talk to you for an hour?" You know,
I didn't even thought about that. I didn't even thought about that. You're right. You have a reason to go reach out to people you want to talk to and woo them into convo. That's cool, man. I'm gonna use that sometime.
And it all cycles around too. I mean, I met you through a podcast I produce. I'm sitting in the background while recording you and Dr. Erica Harris on the Rise Today inspirational podcast. Always be plugging, I guess. That just kind of came out, but I'm throwing it
That's
out there.
Cool.
And that's where, I was able to observe and hear you. And you're all over the Instagrams too. I'll throw out here as well, because like you said, as fathers, and we have our kids. Mine are 20 or just about 20 year old son, and then I've got a 17-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter.
And, man.
I don't get them mixed up as much as I do their names. I do call them the two daughters.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah.
We'll see if you have tips on working through that. Now,
not that one. No tips for that one. No tips for that one. I do the same thing. Did it last night, actually. Yep.
I have occasionally, and I do in my head all the time. Actually, I only have one son, so I don't get his name mixed up with a sibling. But I call him by my brother's name in my head because he reminds me of my brother.
Really? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's interesting. I wonder how many other parents do that. I've never heard that before, but it's probably a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. When I just had the two for quite a while in my head, I would label them Christian and Amber. But listeners to the podcast may remember on Christmas time, I did do an episode with both of them. But in my head, I'd be like, instead of my Carter and Lily, in my head, I'd be like Christian and Amber. Oh wait, that's not their names. So if everybody's got those names straight, we'll have a quiz at the end. So I really also, speaking of vulnerability, I really liked your story because you put that on your website. And I know we're going to get into just the way we parent and stuff, but speaking,
man,
you're quite open about how you came to this. All those.
I try to be because I think it's a real story. I mean, and that's actually like the PG version of the story. I mean, the real story has a lot more fear in it and intensity. There's a couple stories that I tell. So actually, I'm not fully sure which story you're referring to right now because I tell a lot of stories. So which story are you talking about?
Well, just your online bio. You had shared that when you got into this, that you started reading and studying for yourself because and you had implied that there was like emotional regulation or getting into the temperament of being a dad. And
for sure, man.
That there's things like many of us, I'm going to say many when I mean all, I think it's pretty universal for us to get into parenting and be like, oh, what? This is how I act when I'm in charge.
Yeah, man.
I've never been this much in charge.
I know. I've never had this much power, this much control to be able to love someone, connect with someone, teach someone, mentor someone, but also hurt someone. So I think my story is, I think maybe when I started telling this story 17 years ago, I think it was a rare story, but now I think the story has become much more common. Like, let me explain. So, I'm 44 now, but when I became a dad, I mean, I was a hot mess when I was 25, and I was a hot mess of a husband and a dad. My parents are lovely people. I love them. I honor them, but they did the best they could to raise my sisters and I. But there was some really shady stuff that happened in my childhood and some painful things and a divorce. And just felt like in a lot of ways, just kind of raising myself in alpha male San Diego culture of sports and the beach and just trying to figure out life on my own. And with not a lot of mentoring or support or emotional support or a lot of tips. My parents are great, lovely people. I'm not trying to bash them. But then I realized here I am in my mid-20s, like, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I acting this way? Why am I parenting this way? Why am I being a husband this way? And it was like a dream come true having a wife and a child. And then it was like a nightmare being like, you know what? This is not what I wanted. Like, this is not how I thought it was going to be. It was so much disenchantment. It's like the only thing I wanted in my life, Dwight, was to be a dad one day. Like, I didn't have any great career goals or passions. I just wanted to have a family and I wanted to be a healthy person. And I just wasn't. And it was embarrassing and it sucked. And I was like, I got to do something about this. So I started reading books and started talking to mentors, and I started reading more books. And I'm like, wow, there's some good stuff in these books. Like, this is helpful. And then I was like, I'm starting applying some of these positive parenting principles to my own, now 2 kids. And I was like, wow, this is really working. This is great. And I started learning more, watching videos, mostly learning from women. I mean, looking back now, I was almost all women I learned from parenting, because there aren't a lot of men in this space. And then I started observing other healthy men, healthy husbands, and talking to them, having pancakes with them and just observing. And I'm still like a very typical American male. I love sports, the outdoors, football, fantasy football, MMA, fighting, fishing, camping, yard work, craft beer. Like, I'm all that typical stuff. But I just realized, like, look, like, I think that I have like this calling now upon my life. And I feel like this is my mission. Like, this is my passion. I want to like teach positive parenting skills to parents out there, so they can have the same outcomes that I'm having in my family, because good parenting changes the world. And then I had no skills. I had no skills. So I had to figure out the business of it, the marketing of it. I had to figure out the social media. I had to figure out how to be mature. I had to figure out how to do this. And so then one thing led to another, and I started helping more and more families, started making more social media videos. And now here we are, man, on your lovely podcast. That's the short version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how little we teach, especially proactively, people about parenting, like you say, and that gender role thing is really big, because but not for great reasons either, is it? Because on the one, there's that sort of toxic masculinity is a term we throw around a lot, and this is a real good example of it, which is, women are socialized to be more comfortable with that role, and once again, not for a great reason, is sometimes they're over socialized that's their only role that is supposed to keep. And then guys, they're just like, what do I do? I don't know. I mean, we have the vague sense of, we still have this vague sense of like the breadwinner, even though most of us now are multiply winning bread in our homes. But, and then, so you change that a little bit to be like, now what do I do? Like, how do I go home and be a nice kind of like,
how do how do I learn how to be gentle? And I'm not like a gentle person. How do I be gentle with my kids? Like, this is tough. So like, this is why I say like my story is becoming more common, because what I've noticed change in the last 10 years is that more and more parents now have a growth mindset towards parenting. Like, even you do that. That's why you're having me on. It's like there's this generation that's happening with women and men. Like, I want to grow. I want to be better than my parents. I don't want to screw up my kids the way my parents screwed me up. I want to learn how to like, don't be authoritarian, don't be people pleasing or passive. I want to figure this out. And I'm a part of that movement. And it's like super cool to be a part of that movement, and to just make positive videos that millions of people see on a regular basis. It's like such an honor, and I don't want to screw it up, man. I don't want to say something stupid. I don't want to like cross the line. I want to enjoy this like space that like I've been able to step into, man.
Yeah. You focus a lot on talking with teens. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get on, and it's very difficult to find communication. I think it's different for different stages, right? It's always easy to fall into the
so much parenting,
but
parenting is all about stages, man. And that's why it's so hard. It's these stages, right? Like how you talk to your 5-year-old should be so different than how you talk to your 9-year-old, and so different than your 12-year-old. Huge difference. So yeah, sorry. I hope I didn't cut you off there, but yeah. So these stages are tough, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some stages are harder than others. Like I got so many parents are like, yeah, like my kid's been doing great. And then all of a sudden 6th grade started, and like, what the heck happened to my kid? Or like everything was good until the divorce, or until junior year, or until they quit baseball. And now it's like, what the heck happened to my kid? So challenging, right? This is what I do is I just, try to simplify my work, but I just put tools into parents' toolbox. Like I'm not a psychotherapist like you are. I don't really go into what happened to you when you were younger. I'm going to give you some tools that are really effective for this specific problem you have. And there is a lot of solutions out there to all these problems. And I nerd out on that stuff.
Yeah. 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 I think one of the biggest things is acceptance. And to start with, for me, I talk to people a
Yes.
lot about the realities of the parenting. One is it's hard, obviously. One of the main ones, though, is the lack of perfectionism. If we can embrace an idea that,
Mm,
hey, if everybody's got blank spots in where they're parenting, just my parents did, I do, my kids will when they parent. Everybody out there is like there's
yeah.
spots to where it's like, oh no. And if we don't accept that, we go, oh no, and we can run the risk of the worst mistake I think we make is we stop trying. It's like, well, I already
Oh,
screwed up. So I guess this is just how it is. And either we
That's what a lot
don't
of parents
learn or,
do.
yeah.
They check out. They check out because it's too hard, and they check out. They stop trying.
Right.
That's super common. Or how painful it is if you're married to somebody who just checks out, right? So tell me, I really like what you said about acceptance. Can you tell me more? Because it's like, if you ask 10 people, what does that mean to thrive with acceptance and parenting? You're going to get 10 different answers. I think I can learn a lot from you right now, and we all could. Tell us some more thoughts on, if you could, acceptance. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? I don't want to just blow past it because I think it's really important.
No, it's a big thing. It's a big principle of mental health, actually, is if we can accept reality. I mean, in AA, they talk about reality on reality's terms. It's necessary to defeat addiction and those kinds of things. And it goes deeper. It's easy for all of us to say, yeah, I get it. It's hard, whatever. And it's like, that's not truly, it's a little deeper. It's being able to make decisions based off of the situation that I'm really in. And so
Yeah, man.
I'll apply it like with the parenting thing. There are mistakes I've made that I can't take back. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, me
so when we have an effect and we see, oh, I've imparted this part of me or my life or whatever to my kid, or I've overcompensated in this area. And, everybody, there's a little bit of a a twitch or a tweak here or there, right? That we carry around from
Dwight's making these making the funny faces right now. He's making that noise. Sorry, man.
For you Patreon subscribers who see the video, you can see me do my little twitchy dance, and the wonderful wall of album art that you have behind you. Anyway, and a gold record, which I assume is a gold record from your trainings.
That's a Harry Styles. No, it's a Harry Styles record that's showing right now. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, please tell me more. Yeah.
But being able to look at it and say, if I made mistakes when my child was young, and let's take a stage, going through that, trying to decide if it's free for me to explore the world, right? Let's get Ericksonian stages here. Is it safe for me to go out and explore? And maybe I sent my kid the message that, but no. Maybe I'm overprotective, or maybe I'm overestimating. And I'll throw out, one of the mistakes I know, especially with my first child, is that being overprotective and anxious is kind of my nature. But also, having that, he's a real smart kid. I've been, all my kids have been and really good at vocabulary, and they learn a lot of words and a lot of concepts at a young age. And I found that one of my biggest mistakes was forgetting that they're not the age that they maybe sound they are with their vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so both overprotecting and then overestimating some of the things that I think they should be able to handle on their own is a bad double. That's a bad double whammy when your dad.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to overprotect you, but expect a lot of you. That's something I didn't know until it's been done, right? It happened in the young years, and it's something that happened. And it's part of our relationship there. So why do I accept it and say, well, when I learn that, could I correct and try to do different? Or do I go, well, I already screwed up, and now what do I,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. So, some of the things I heard you say there is just accepting that the past of the past, that the imperfections existed, and just realizing that, I've got to accept this and move on and learn from this. Don't beat myself up for this, the dad guilt, the mom guilt. And that's one of the themes I heard you say. Did I hear you right?
Absolutely. And I think part of it too is that, we have to work with the deficits that we had, because they go on, right? As our kids get older, it's like, oh, here's a little thing that maybe I had something to do with imparting this, and they maybe they struggle with this. And I think so do we go with the guilt and say, Because sometimes guilt leads to shame, and then we ignore a problem because it's too painful.
Oh yeah.
Instead of being like, yeah, I had a hand in causing this, but I also have a hand in trying to address it. Right.
Yeah. Well said. I have a hand in causing this, but I have a hand in trying to address it. Yeah.
Or I should.
And I really agree because we should address our parenting flaws. We should improve. We shouldn't yell at our kids, rescue them, people please them. We shouldn't avoid them or just, we should, we all know there is, this is one of the most important things we do in our lives is, being a parent. It's maybe the most important thing. It's maybe the most impactful thing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm just just want to echo the voices of our kids to be like, yeah, let's do this. Let's prioritize our kids, our mental health, and let's prioritize our teaching, because I like to tell people, parents are teachers and every home is a school. So you can still be a great teacher and have a slow learner. Like your kid's behavior doesn't dictate your value or it doesn't dictate your success as a parent. It's their job to kind of go through the ups and downs of life, going through their own journey, make their own mistakes. It's our job to just be the best teachers that we can be. And we teach by modeling and we teach by speaking. And so, yeah, this is like one of the ways that I, teach, but also talk to myself to be like, you know what? I'm an imperfect teacher. I'm an imperfect man. And some days are better than others. And I'm just going to keep doing the best I can. And I accept that my kids are going to be imperfect. I'm going to be imperfect. And I don't need to be a perfect parent to raise a great kid. And I'm going to enjoy this process. Right. And that's some of the ways I talk to myself.
Do you have tools or thoughts about how people sort of move through or accommodate that guilt, that shame piece of how people try to have that overwhelming?
Yeah, I do have tools and I do have ideas. Here's a quick little snippet of one of them. So the stuff that comes out of our parenting mouth is like our words, like how we parent our kids. And think of that as like, the fruit of the tree. Like those are our actions and reactions. And some of our actions and reactions are very healthy and some of them are not. And so if you're not satisfied with your parenting, that means you're not satisfied with the fruit that you're putting out. So what you could do is just try to white knuckle it, which means like making a big fist and you're so much so your knuckles become white. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to rescue. I'm not going to nag. I'm not. And that's probably not going to be successful. So to kind of go to you got to go on a journey, because if you look at the fruit of the trees, then you go down and look at the limbs of the branches of the tree. And what I've discovered is that the reason why we're doing these things, let's just say yelling, which is a good example, is because we're actually emotional. We get emotional and then we yell. So what do? Do we control our emotions? Well, no, we don't control our emotions. We manage our emotions. So what is the root cause of our emotions? Well, let's go down the tree to the roots of the tree. And that is where our thoughts and that's where our beliefs lie. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like the fruit you're producing in your parenting, your family life, you really want to do deep change. You got to think about your thoughts. What kind of thoughts are you thinking? What kind of thoughts are going through your head right before you yell, you rescue, you avoid your kid, you go into screen time, you avoid alcohol, you avoid pills, you abuse wine, abuse, you snap, you hit, you do a harsh discipline. And this takes deeper work for some of us more than others, but yeah, it's the thought life of a parent is very important. That's why I make a lot of videos about, and podcasts about the thoughts we have as a parent. It's just, I think we need to talk about that more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think yelling and I think lecturing also, those two things are two good examples of things that we really deep down are often doing to make ourselves feel better. It's like that when you feel out of control, you take inappropriate control sometimes, right? I've told parents that too when I work with them, and gosh, it's a hard one not to fall into where, we get into that. I'm pretty sure if I just get this phrase out, if I just get them to understand this, and next thing you know,
so common.
Yeah. What's the old?
They have to hear this. And I'm a bad parent if I don't speak up. It's my job. I have to tell you. Then they go into these lame lectures or pep talks and your kids are rolling their eyes and they're done.
Yeah. It's like, what's the least amount of words I have to say to get out of this is what kids start, And when you're lecturing, you're giving that opening, right? If you're going to lecture me and I know that my participation that you're desiring is silence, I'm just going to sit and go, this will be over soon, right?
Yeah. Like, one of the top tools I teach my clients is this tool that I call a heart talk, like from your heart. Mm-hmm. And to have a great heart talk with anyone, especially your child, you've got to excel in the listening aspect of a heart talk, being a listener, hearing your kid's heart, validating them, showing empathy. They're different than you. They like different things. They like stupid things. They dress in a stupid way. They talk in a lame way. They annoy you. And it's hard to listen to that crap, isn't it? And because that's how we feel about it. We don't like it. They don't like, and that's interesting is the better you listen to your kids, the more they're going to talk. The more they're going to talk, the more you're going to hear. The more you hear, the more stuff you don't like that's going to push your buttons. The more stuff you hear that's going to push your buttons, the more tempted you're going to react. The more reactions you do, the less your kid is going to talk. So I just made myself dizzy right there. But the moral of the story, but the more you listen, the more your kid will feel safe. The more your kid feels safe, the more your kid will talk. The more your kid talks, the better attachment and bond you have with them. The better attachment and bond you have with your kid, the more they'll listen to you when they talk. When you talk. I'm making myself laugh, but that was a whole.
No, yeah, no.
It all brought together about, and why do we want to talk? Because we need to teach them something that they don't have, which is wisdom. They don't have wisdom, and we have it. And so, one of the best ways to be a great parent and to teach your kids wise, wonderful, good things is by listening to them.
Yeah, it's an old expression, right? Of I don't know, or I don't. Well, see, I just did it backwards. I don't care what you know till I know that you care, and there's no relationship that's more true.
I like that
than in kids.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. I love that.
Because the other thing too is that we don't often think to ourselves, they might be right. Like when kids are doing a thing
I know,
that maybe we don't agree with, or they're disagreeing with us. It's like, just because I may have the right to be in charge of things, but at the same time, it doesn't mean I'm always actually correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes
so true.
You never know.
Yeah. Like you don't need to mention which kid this is. You don't need to answer this question, but of your 3 kids, you got 19, 17, and 8. Which one for you right now is the most challenging for you to listen to? You don't need to tell us which one it is. You can just describe it, or you can pass on that question.
Well, let me say this one. I'm going to answer in a little bit of a conglomeration.
Cool.
That's a good way, because I don't talk about their stuff exactly. But I will say that there's different reasons at different times that are hard to listen. And some of them are real intuitive, and then I think one is not that much. One of the most intuitive ones is, am I actually interested? Right? Is it a topic? Especially this applies a lot for young kids too. But I think for any of them, it's like they're into something. Doesn't mean I'm into it, the thing that they're into. But I think what we want to communicate is that we are interested in them. Right? I mean, that's a big one.
So true,
and that can be hard.
Yeah,
I think when they relate to the world in ways that are different, that's also intuitively difficult to maybe hear without responding. The funniest one to me that is counterintuitive is when we see ourselves in them. Because there are times where it's hard for me to listen to one of my kids say or espouse something or have an attitude towards something like I used to, and I don't like how I was, or I'm like, oh, I have that tendency now, but I don't want them to go through that. I better try to, and that makes it difficult to talk to, because it's like, oh, I recognize that about, oh, I didn't want you to have that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it sure does. Yeah, that's something that we all can kind of relate with, but no one ever talks about that. Like, how do you respond when you see that tendency in your own kid?
Yeah.
And then so many parents, it's like they want to control that in their kid. They want to shame it out of their kid. They want to punish it out of their kid. They want to lecture it out of their kid. And that sure doesn't work. And one of the best things you can say to yourself as a parent is this. I say to myself all the time, and it's really great for marriage and co-parenting or romance as well. I cannot change this child, but I can change myself. Mm-hmm. And I cannot control this child, but I can control myself. And because parents are teachers and every home's a school, the more you change yourself, the more you control yourself, because you have the ability to have self-control. Good things happen from there, because then your kids see a growth mindset parent. They see a healthy parent. They talk with a healthy parent, and then just so many good things go on, including a breaking of a codependent relationship, and it just gives them like a type of mentor that they can one day look up to.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that's hard when you get into the transition to adolescence is that they start to develop who they are, which is good. It's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed over time is, and hopefully everyone knows by now, I'm throwing myself in here just as much as anyone else, but we all say, if you asked anybody, do you want your kid to be an independent thinker? Do you want them to develop their own personality and live as themselves and be authentic?
I like where this is going.
Yes, exactly right. but how much do we mean it? Because then they come home and they say, I think this religiously, politically. I think this socially. And it's like, no, not anymore. No, you can be independent, but don't do that.
I've never heard anybody say that before. Like the way you said it so well. That's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. Let me say the same thing you said in a different way, but mine's not going to be as funny as yours. As parents, we want two big things, and we want them bad. We want our kids to follow our rules. Brush your teeth, take a shower, get good grades, don't hate your sibling, say please and thank you, get off your screens when grandma and grandpa are here. Like basic stuff. And if you think about it, in most homes, there's actually no more than probably 20 rules. Yeah, do some chores, right?
Yeah.
And it hurts us and it bothers us when our kids don't do that category, right? Follow the rules. Big problem. But what we also want is to your point, trying to say the same thing you said, is we want our kids to follow our values. Mm-hmm. And there's about 10,000 values. How do you feel about sexting? How do you feel about Snapchat? How do you feel about celebrities? How do you feel about crop tops? How do you feel about tattoos? How do you feel about oral sex? How do you feel about grandma and grandpa? How do you feel about family barbecues? How do you feel about this religion? How do you feel about YouTube kids? How do you feel about, it just goes on and on. And so what I have found is the solution to this problem is this amazing word called closeness. Just being close. Best way to share your values and the best chances you have of your children adopting your healthy, positive values is just be close with them. Right. And that shouldn't be a big mystery. It kind of makes sense, but now it's not easy to be close with somebody, especially a salty teenager. But it is possible.
But if you push too hard, you risk pushing them away. And if someone's far away from me, the funny thing is, even if they realize, my dad had a good point. If I've pushed them, 10,000 feet away from my pushing, they're not going to turn around and say that, because we have the gulf is too wide. They might go, I'm going to go over here and try to do that on my own, but because we've damaged the relationship, right? That's what I think of when you say closeness.
So good. Like some of the best advice I give to some of my clients is just take a break from parenting. Please stop parenting. What do you mean? I'm the parent, Sean. What are you talking about? Like, you're micromanaging, you're parenting, you're pushing your values, you're pushing your rules is damaging the connection. Mm-hmm. And they want a connection with you. It's clear. So just freaking control yourself and just nurture the connection more and chill out on the parenting. And then they will listen to you more. So you don't have to do so much parenting. and you can trust them. And so I'm just trying to say the same thing you say, because I thought it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. And you remind me of something that I've said many times over the years, but I won't pretend I invented. I stole it from a little old wise counselor that I used to know. When I worked in just this agency that I worked at a long time ago, and he would do things about parenting and parenting classes, and I always liked this. I apply it to a lot of relationships. Because we do have to impart things. We do have to push. We do have to have some kind of like discipline and all those kinds of things. But he said, when you're working with your kids, on think of their reaction on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is like, hey, do this, and they're like, I don't care. Yeah, of course I will. You know, they're just, there's not really much of a reaction. 10 is, I'm going to move out if you do that, or whatever. Just like nuclear.
Yeah, nuclear. Yeah.
And he used to say, when you find yourself in a tough conversation, especially with your kid, if you're pushing a little, and it's okay, it's appropriate to push a little.
Yes. Yeah.
And he said, but if you feel like in your head, you should be asking, how strong is their reaction? And on a 0 to 10, if they are at a 4 or 5 or below, keep going. Just keep going. You're having a conversation. If they're above a 5, shut up. Just stop.
Yes.
We're not, no, just because you're only damaging.
So good.
Point. Isn't it? I like that. I liked it a lot.
That actually happened to me last night. Let's see. It's about 14 hours ago. I took my dog for a walk, and it was the second walk I took him on in that day. And I asked my 14-year-old, do you want to go with me? And she's like, yeah. So we were walking in our neighborhood, and I made a joke towards her. What was the joke? I'm not going to tell you because she didn't like it. I was kind of roasting her about something that is personal in her life. And I thought it was kind of funny. And she stopped, she looked at me, and she said, that's not funny. And I was like, and I could have reacted with, hey, whoa, chill out, man. Gosh, like drama much? I could have been like, don't talk back to me.
As we know on the internet, that's a great reaction when people are offended.
Yeah, right. I could have calmed down and don't talk back to me. Don't, you're too sensitive. But yeah, I saw that, and that was at a 5, and it was a 5. And I mean, she's a strong kid. I got 3 strong kids. And so I was like, whoa, I backpedaled. I showed care and kindness and sensitivity because, at age 14, this is a young adult we're dealing with here. Like, this is a young adult. And I think kids turn young adults right around age 12, personally. And there's even cultural, reasons for bar mitzvahs, and different cultures have celebrated adulthood. But adulthood starts somewhere around age 12 to, 15. You decide what time that is. But yeah, like that is talk about shifts in our minds. Like if you, are talking to your 10-year-old the same way you're talking to your 12-year-old, like you probably could make an adjustment as a parent, because this 12-year-old is very different in their brain and their psychology and even in their hormones than they were at age 10. Mm-hmm. And this is another reason why parenting is so freaking hard, man. The stuff we're talking about right now.
It's so true. The thought that popped in my head was, think of any peer, either a peer, a boss, a subordinate even, who turns to you and says something like, hey, you hurt my feelings. We would immediately go into some kind of unless we're an internet troll, like I was joking about earlier. But, if something that happens face to face with someone in a relationship that we value, who is another person with maybe similar social power than us, or even less. Like I say, even if it's a subordinate, they say, hey, that hurt my feelings when you did that, boss. We're going to go into the mode of, well, I need to make this right. I need to do something. I have to. Whereas with our kids, we have power, and sometimes we don't think about that. Is like, one of the things I like about a lot of your video reels and things is you do talk to people about how to talk to teens in a way that treats them like people. One of my favorites was, I heard you say as a compliment, say, hey, you're cool. You're a cool person. If I went to high school with you, I'd want to be your friend. Like that was one of my favorites that stood out.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Can I respond 2 parts to that? Yeah. One, I always smile when people tell me that. They tell me, you know what, Sean, you made this one video once, and people even stop me on the street sometimes and be like, you know what, you made this one video, and it really, really changed me. It's just it's so heartwarming to hear that. But you know, that people are responding to in my videos that way. I just love it. I don't know. I'm just celebrating that right now. So thank you.
No, you're welcome.
The second thing I think of is like I think we're really a new generation of parents. I really do. The type of stuff I teach, there's nothing new. This isn't like new agey stuff coming out of California. Like one of the world's most famous parenting books came out in like 1970. It was called like, how to talk to your kids so they'll listen, how to listen so they'll talk. Like my parents, I don't think read that book, man. Like, and I just think that this is like, even if you look at so many cultures throughout history, like there's just been a history is filled with good parenting, good connected parenting, fathers who mentored their sons into the craft and who cared about him, mothers who mentored their daughters, grandmothers and grandsons, family units of being together, living together, co-sleeping, cohabitation, like partnerships, uncles, aunts, godparents. Like this is like what I'm just trying to do here is just help us to tap into our truest form of like humanity. Like this isn't new. What is new is the freaking Xbox, the freaking cell phone, all these apps that we deal with, all this technology we're dealing with, all this freaking crap we put into our bodies, all these distractions. What is new is that you go to a freaking restaurant and it's filled with 25 effing screens all over the place, distracting us from the purpose we even went to that restaurant. What is new is like all this stupid stuff that we're dealing with, all these drugs, all these ways that people are abusing drugs and all this crap. So yeah, like I just want to be a part of something real and connected that brings families together. So when I make a little video, it's like, hey, here's something cool you can say to your kids. It's just trying to help parent to say something that's already in their heart, because they feel it in their heart, but they just are maybe looking for the words. This is the same reason why people buy Hallmark cards. It's like, this is what I feel, but I want to find the words. So yeah, part of the videos that I make, I've never even said this out loud. I've always just thought it, just kind of brought it out. Man, I'm on a tangent right now. Some of the videos I make are kind of like Hallmark cards. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
That's the reason they sell, right? I get it. No, it is though interesting. And it goes back to that thought you had of let's stop parenting and start just having a relationship with someone.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. That's a cool thing. We could go on and on forever. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to be able to do it today. I always ask people before we'll share, where people find you and that kind of stuff. But I always like to ask people if they have a charitable organization, a nonprofit, or just a method that they use of giving back to the community that they would recommend for people that people may know about. Doesn't have to do with parenting, but it can. It doesn't matter.
I probably should get a cause or something like a charity that I'm really into. I don't have one on the top of my head. What we do is we have I think it's through Compassion, where we adopt, we have a child in like, I think, Uganda or Ethiopia. I should know. This is like our second one that we've done where we just send a payment over once a month. And I think it's through Compassion, but it's been good for my kids to kind of see like, this is just a connection we have. It's like very inexpensive. We do other things too, but it's just like a small monthly payment. And this little girl from Africa, she sends little drawings sometimes, or a little like things of what she's learning. And so, yeah, I think that's just a really cool way to, I think anything you do charitable, I think you should definitely, absolutely include your kids into that. Include your kids into the charities that you do. Help them to see the pros and cons of it and why you do it. And that is such a good parenting move right there.
Yeah. It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. Tell people where do they find you? You've got the podcast. You've got, I'll let you say what they are.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I'd like to provide a lot of free content. So you can find me on social media as the Family Coach. I've got over 1 million followers on social media. You can find me on my podcast, which is the Sean Donohue Show. And then if you'd like to work with me or join my VIP membership, you can find me on my website, which is parentingmodernteens.com. And I'd love to talk with you and support you any way I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let me hit up everybody out there who's listening. Just a reminder that at the end of this month, which I'm planning, this tells you that I'm planning to get this out soon. At the end of this month, August 31st, is International Opioid Overdose Awareness Day. And as is our tradition, because we do things twice or more than it's a tradition, this is the second time of our annual live broadcast. I'll be doing a StreamYard broadcast over my socials, medias, to include people. It's going to be about 5 hours in the middle of the day on the 31st. Got some. Yeah, so there'll be some guests, some returning guests, some different features and things. The focus this year is on interrupting addiction with health and healthy behaviors. So it's to raise that awareness for everybody. So
Dwight, I'm watching on Netflix the show Painkiller with Matthew Broderick. Have you seen it?
Oh, I have not, but I think I saw it.
It is so good.
Really?
I'm on tonight. I'm going to watch with my wife episode 6, which is the end of the show. It is so good, man. We've got to continue to address opioids and painkillers and that epidemic. And This is a great movie, and you should all check it out. Yeah.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. That's good. Well, you know what? It's funny. I actually have a film podcaster, film expert, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. He's been on the show before. We're actually we pre-recorded for part of this live broadcast a section where we're talking about movies about addiction, because that's his big specialty, and as a recovered addict himself, coming on to talk about that. So cool. so it's one of those things where I keep saying like it'll be fun, but it will, in a way of, because we're finding things that are fun and healthy to help interrupt addiction. So if you watch. Keep an eye on the socials. I just put out a flyer on it yesterday on Instagram, is at Brainiacs Ahoy, one word, and on Twitter, X, and Facebook, both under those. You can look up The Broken Brain on Facebook or go to facebook.com/breakabrain. Twitter is at breakabrain. Sorry, X. This is putting a timestamp on this. They just changed it. What's Twitter? No one knows. Everyone calls it X now. They won't even recognize those words. So anyway, everybody out there, all you Brainiacs listening, really appreciate you. Once again, watch for those, and that's where you can watch. There'll also be a link that will be provided. The week before, I'll have some announcements, and during the thing itself, we'll have a posted link to where you, as listeners, you can click on that and join the program live if you want. You can be on video and audio, or however you want to do it. So looking forward to that. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Dwight. Good chat with you, man. I really enjoyed that.
Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.